What is up, guys and gals? It's me, Thomas Fan 1 here, and today we're going to be doing narrations once again. And here they are. So, without further ado, let's get this going. Out of puff. The express is a long, heavy train. Gordon usually pulls it, but only as far as the other railway. Another engine would take the coaches from there to London. If Gordon's ill or busy somewhere else, James or Henry have the chance to pull it. Nowadays, it's Pip and Emma who take the express up to London, leaving Gordon or the other engines to take the separate express service from Sodor to London. Both Henry and James enjoy this express service and try their best to do it well. Too well, perhaps, because sometimes the importance of the occasion goes to their smoke boxes and makes them boastful. One day, Henry was feeling pleased with himself. He had run the express to time, and the fat controller had congratulated him. Henry scoffed crossly. The Scottish twins were wasting their own puff, of course. Henry looked to no notice whatsoever, but he would a little later. The next day, life on the railway was becoming difficult. The engines had begun using a new sort of coal. It was dusty and burned with the clouds of thick black smoke. The fat controller was cross, and so were the engines. They all hated this coal. They began to grumble dreadfully about it, and soon their crews agreed with them. The new coal made more ash, too. Before long, all the engines began to have pains in their smoke boxes. Hot ash collected there and gave them the most awful indigestion. Diesels like Boko, Bear, Mavis, even Pip and Emma felt sorry for the engines, too. They couldn't stand them feeling under the weather. One evening, Henry felt dreadful when he got back to his shed. His fireman had to clean an enormous pile of ash from the smoke box before he felt better. But the next day, Henry could not make steam properly. The driver then pulled the lever, and the big green engine set off to collect his coaches. Let me restart that. The driver then pulled the lever, and the big green engine set off to collect his coaches. Poor Henry still felt dreadful when he arrived at the station. On the way to Vickerstown, there was trouble. Henry began to feel a pain in his smoke box. This one stronger than anything. It wasn't long before he started to wheeze heavily, and soon started coughing loudly. Poor Henry struggled onward. Luckily, Edward's station was right up ahead. With the biggest huff of smoke he'd ever given, the struggling tender engine finally made it to the station and could go no further. Douglas was there. He had seen the whole thing. Poor Henry couldn't answer. He was red in the face and too exhausted to say anything. Douglas took the train onward, and the fireman cleared away more ashes from Henry's smoke box. But when he tried to close the smoke box door, it didn't make the airtight fit that it should have done. He quickly ran inside the station and picked up some newspaper and magazines. Meanwhile, the driver filled a bucket of water from the water tower. They then teared the magazines and newspapers into strips, which they soaked in the water. His driver was right. When the job was done, Henry felt much better. Even the driver and fireman were surprised at how well he steamed. Henry went very carefully and reached the sheds without mishap. The story came before him, of course, and when he arrived, Donald and Douglas didn't say anything, but now and then made sort of breathless puffing noises, which made the other engines, excuse me, but now and then made sort of breathless puffing noises, which the other engines found hilarious. Henry thought they must have a, excuse me, let's try that again. Henry thought they must have a very odd sense of humor. Alright, hopefully that's good enough.